Out here working on this stupid RX300 that I decided to build, buy, rebuilding. My reference mainly for this video is a channel called Chetta Benz. Hopefully he comments on this, give me a little help, a little insight. So some tips on this. If you get your shop manual, they have procedures in it. Let me put my cigarette out. There's procedures in it to do the whole engine. It's pretty fantastic. I'm in the cooling section to try and figure out how to get the AC unit off and out of the way. But up front, there's a whole procedure. I dog-eared it. I promise it's in here. Here we go. Whole thing, step by step. See if we can get a focus. There we go. So get one of these manuals. They're not expensive. They're probably about $30 around there, $35, something like that. But you can do stuff like taking out your own engine. So obviously most of the stuff I have out of here, basically you're going to work counterclockwise inside the engine bay. And at this point all I have to do is mechanical stuff. I have all the tubes and hoses removed and all the electrical connectors. So again, work counterclockwise. Take out your battery first, and then your air box, and then the intake part that goes to your intake manifold. And then your intake manifold comes off. You know, work on cables and hoses that are in the way, and then you know, pretty much just one thing at a time. There's two wire looms, which are over here. I got them pushed out of the way. Of course, now they're all tangled. So one wire loom runs around the back of the engine, back there, and then goes to a bunch of stuff up front, ending at your battery over here. And then the other one goes along this way, over the top of the engine. That's got your fuel injectors and your spark plug cables on there. And then these ones are real difficult to get because they are buried down in there. There's some right there on your camshaft, and then there's some deep down there. You actually have to get them off from like the underside. They're underneath the headers. Down up under there, you're going to be able to see them. Kind of hard to get to, but once you get them off, pull all that stuff out of the way. Let's turn this other light on for extra light. It's daytime, so I try to use the daylight. At nighttime, I got my little shop lights hanging up there. There's one there and one there. But they're 500 watts a piece. That's a lot of power. And, you know, I try not to use that much power. So I got some LED lights on the way to replace those light bulbs. They bring it down to like, quoted as 10 watts. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll get a power meter and test them. So what next? Basically, this engine has to come out the bottom, not the top, because this back row of cylinders will not clear this right there. And the crane I have built isn't going to clear this hood anyways. So what do we have left? Oh, don't forget to drain all your fluids. Obviously, oil. I guess oil would be fine to keep in here. But your coolant, because this has to come out, drain that out the bottom. That's on up under here. There's a little nice, you'll see it. It's a finger daily. Petcock is what it's called. Opens with your fingers and then drains out the bottom of the radiator. What else is there to say? Oh, you're going to see all these tape thingies in here. Label everything so that when you put it back on, you know exactly where it came from. That's a good tip I got from Schrodinger's cat. That channel, fantastic channel if you're doing stuff like this. Go check that one out. He's much more detailed than I am, and he's done this a lot more times. I'm gonna be honest, I was a little overwhelmed mentally before I got into this. You open the hood of the car and say I have to get that big hunk of metal out. It's a little overwhelming to look at all the stuff you have to do, but I'm gonna tell you, it's really not that bad. Just start taking things out one piece at a time. Good news is you're taking out everything, so it doesn't matter. But again, you want to be tedious when you're taking it out so that you know how to put it all back together again. If you have to sit there and stare at it for 5 minutes and get a good mental picture of something, take pictures on your phone or your camera. Do the flag method. I just use this blue painter's tape because it's all I had. Masking tape might be a little better because it's white. Get yourself a good old Sharpie permanent marker. Don't use dry erase. Basically, if it gets too dirty and you can't read it, it's not going to do you any good. So that's one of the reasons why I'm pulling this wiring harness out of the way. You might even want to clean your engine bay before you start doing any of this. I didn't think to do that until I got this far. Another thing I'm doing, even though I had the procedure there and I could just follow that around and check it, one idea with that, which I could have done, was take that to work or something where I had access to a copy machine and copy out all the applicable pages and just make myself a little procedure for doing this, just for this, so I don't have to go turning through the book. And then I could mark it up and not have to worry about my marks getting in the way. But one of the things I am doing as I'm taking it out, the sequence, because if you put something back in the wrong order that you took it out, you might have difficulties putting other stuff back in. So I'm doing this procedure. So as I'm taking it out, I'm working easiest to, what's easiest first. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm writing down what's easiest first. Obviously, when I put it back in, I want to go in reverse order. If I remove something and I labeled it, put a little L on there, wrote myself a key at the top, so in case I do a abbreviation, I know what I'm talking about later on, because I don't know when exactly this engine's going to go back in. So TB is throttle body, FI, fuel injection, SP, spark plug. So make sure you take notes like that. Remind yourself of little cryptic things that you do. Keep a good tray to put any nuts and bolts in that you have to temporarily put aside. But if I could find one, for the most part, like this ground strap that I took off, if I take a fastener out, I'm going to put it back in that hole so it's right there where I need it, when I need it. You're not going to have to look for it. The bracket that I took off here, put those bolts back in. That's just an engine mount bracket. It goes to this piece. So that's off. Another thing I'm doing, get some boxes that you don't really care if they get dirty. Like these ones, the storage boxes. And, just load them up with your parts. This is all intake parts. So I'm going to segregate those. And then I didn't really have any other extra parts that were coordinated. So just started another box with kind of the same things I'm taking off. Like on the left side here, I might do a right side box or something. I don't know. On your parts that you're taking off, not necessarily just the hoses, but if you take something off of, let's see, where's the throttle body? That one is cryptic. This guy has a lot of hoses on it. A lot of vacuum hoses on this era car. Come on now. Of course, I put this all in together. This is a pain. This is your intake manifold. I'll talk about that. I don't know. So you can see on here, there's a lot of connections and hoses. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 or 5 on the bottom there. You can see them down in the bottom. There's 2 little vacuum connectors. There's one on the top there. There's a bunch of stuff, and then there's 2 electrical connections, and that's just on this one piece. So that's kind of exciting. Like this one, this little tiny black connector on this big black piece, I might forget that. So I put a piece of big blue tape on there to highlight, hey, there's a connection that you need to make right here, and then I made myself a note. Talking about this piece, okay, this is the hanger for your intake manifold, which goes in this area, the big cyclone generator looking thing that's on the back, and then there's the cast pipes that go down into the intake here. That's the intake where it connects to. There's 4 bolts here, 2 Allen head, 2 standard bolts. And then on the back, there's a hanger. And the only reason I would think that they would do this is so that it doesn't pull and crack down here on the intake manifold, because it's cast. There's only bolts on the forward side of this intake manifold. If you put them on the rear side, it would be impossible to get off. But they didn't make it any more possible. You can see how cramped this is to get in there. And you need a very skinny wrench to get behind that bracket that's on there. It goes between the engine block and that cyclone piece. And I believe it's a 12 millimeter that you need behind there to get it loose. I didn't even get it all the way off because it was so difficult. Once I got it loose, I was able to turn the bracket sideways and then pull the whole manifold out, but it was really difficult. I had to use a very shallow wrench. This one here, this socket wrench has like no extra anything on it. If I use like this one right here, it wouldn't fit. I had to use this very flat one with one 12 millimeter socket on there and stuff it behind just to get that thing off. I think I even tried this one, my little 1/4 inch drive, and that didn't even fit. Getting a standard open end, closed end wrench back there also would not work, because the way the bracket is, it's like U-shaped, and this is the one that connected. Yeah, it's a 14 millimeter. Yeah, those are the there's 3 sizes that you're gonna need for this. There's 10, 12, and 14. Everything in here that you're doing to get this engine out so far from the top end is 10, 12, and 14 millimeter. And that was it. Maybe have a little flathead screwdriver to help you get your electrical connectors off. Maybe a pry bar so that if you can't reach the electrical connector, you can do that. I used, this pry bar. Obviously with electrical connectors, you don't want to pry too hard. But once you hear the click of the button, this button right here, which is what I was using the little screwdriver to push on, once you hear that click, just wiggle it off and easy day. You can even spray them with a little WD-40 to help you out. Some of the bolts, like these ones, were a little harder to get with a socket wrench, so I had a breaker bar, just to pop them loose. But yeah, just inventory your parts, inventory your nuts and bolts and your wires and all that stuff. Keep a good record and you shouldn't have a problem. So what I need to do now, you saw I had the alternator off. That came out down here. That was pretty easy to get out. There's a tensioner bolt and a bolt to hold it on. I have to get the AC unit out right there. That's the AC pump. The shop manual says to disconnect it. In the engine removal procedure, it says disconnect it mechanically from its brackets, and don't disconnect the hoses. Obviously refrigerant would come out, and it's not very safe, not good for the environment. If you didn't know, refrigerant is heavy, so it sinks out in the air, and if you get a lung full of it, you actually have to hang upside down and breathe a bunch of times just to get it out, or you'll asphyxiate yourself. I don't think it's really toxic for you, but again, it's going to block oxygen from getting in your lungs, and that's how you die from it. What else? So that has to come up and hang out of the way, which I think I'm going to hang in this area, in this corner. The engine has to drop, like I said, out the bottom. What else is there to say? From the bottom, like I said, there's only mechanical stuff. So this black piece here is the underbody cross members. You have to take some of these plastics off in the front to get to the connectors, because they're up in there. You can see where it goes in. It goes in, and there's the bolt right there. Same thing on the other side. Well, there's my socket. I dropped that the other night. Same thing on the back. Let's see if I can get a good picture of that. Back there, that one, and the other side, they have to come off. And then it drops out the bottom. Other things, obviously, we got the steering mechanism back there on the firewall. You can see that. I have to drain the steering steering fluid reservoir. Some other stuff. I have to go through the checklist to make sure I did it all. And that's the major reason you want to buy a book that has the knowledge already in a list, so you don't miss anything. A lot of the stuff is pretty self-intuitive. You see it and you know it has to come off because it's connected between the body and the engine, or the body and the subframe down there. So you just know to take it off. But you know, some things are not that intuitive. Once you get all these hoses and wires out of here, though, it is super clean. Not clean as in like physically clean, but easy to see. You know, you just look around here and say to yourself, is that connected between the engine and the body? There's a fuel line that goes through here. That's pretty simple. It'll take off, comes off back there. It's a quick disconnect on mine. You just press in the two things and it pops off. Obviously a bunch of gas is going to come out, so don't have any lit fires or anything like that. Take appropriate safety precautions. I'm not going to be your safety fairy here. You have a brain. If you're watching this channel, you're a thinking person. Use it. Use your brain. Don't sue me because I don't have any money anyways. You're not going to get anything. That's why I'm fixing this car instead of sending it to a shop. Do I want to say anything else? Oh yeah, so we got to take these wheels off because my crane up there, I'm using a chain hoist and that brings it down about a foot. When I make this pick, I can't really get the car too high, as high as, you know, like a 2-post lift would. I thought about buying a lift, but that would be a whole other thing, and that's another like $2,000 to $3,000 just in the lift cost, not even like parts and tools and install. So I just built this crane. It was cheap, you know, good couple $100, like $500. No big deal. Used it to put it up on these, so it does lift. But we are gonna have to lower. This whole front end is going to have to go as low as possible. So we're going to take the wheels off. I'm going to put some old shitty tires underneath of there and lower the whole car onto those tires. Make all of the final disconnection from the unibody. And then, you know, pull the crane up and lift the body off. Hopefully, we might even have to readjust to figure it out. You see how tall this engine is inside of the car. Taking it off the wheels and putting it on the ground, man, it might only give me 6 inches, but that might be all I need. So I don't know. We're gonna have to finagle it. I think that's about it. Just getting back to it. Again, out here for hours working on this car. Definitely get a set of these. They're pretty cheap. I want to say like $5 at Harbor Freight. I bought 3 of them. I could have probably did with 4. You know, put one on each fender, and then one in the middle, or 2, one in the corner there and there. Just protect your car from all the stuff you got hanging out, like all these tools and your wires and all the dirt. Yeah, so I'm not going to do, like, show you guys me doing this piece by piece, part by part. It'll be really boring, and it'll take me 3 to 4 times as long. I'm kind of going towards, you know, working a bit and then making a video, and then working a bit more and making a video. Just to save time for me, because I don't have any extra time to be doing videos like that. And, you know, you guys don't really need to or want to see me dicking around with wrenches all day. You know how to use wrenches. So just for informational purposes, I'm doing this video because for this vehicle, nobody has gone through piece by piece pretty much and shown me exactly what to do in their videos. There's no like, hey, you got to take this off and then that and then this in this order and watch out for this. I've been like researching the crap out of this project, you know, picking up bits and pieces from odd videos. Like there was one just how to replace a head gasket. That'll get you most of the way here, at least for the top end, but it's not going to teach you about the bottom. Like I said, Chetta Benz, I was watching his video, but it was mostly I was really watching closely with a hawk's eye his video. He doesn't say, you know, how, like I said, the whole step-by-step how to take it out. He just shows you, like, there's a couple of videos, 1 or 2 or 3 of him, you know, kind of like I'm doing it, piecework. It comes out. He, you know, attempted to explain it all, but you know, didn't really go over the finer points of doing this in this specific car, and that's what I'm doing this for. You know, good on him making that video. It helped me out a lot. I was able to see all these specific things, but I had to figure that out on my own. He is a hardworking man, you know, trying to put food on the table. He doesn't have time to go through and do step-by-step videos. At least that's what I'm getting. I don't want to assume anything about anybody, but so yeah, I'm just going back to clear up some issues. You know, these cars, this is a 99, it's getting up there in age, and a lot of these vehicles are going to start needing new engines. So I figured, you know, if there isn't really a video out there on how to do this, I might as well do it. When this engine comes out, I might be, well, I'm definitely going to tear into it. I'm going to tear into this engine to analyze it. I'm going to try to do a rebuild. Best case scenario, the only thing that is wrong with it is it ate an entire one bearing, and that's all I have to replace is one like rod bearing or a main bearing, and that's it. Worst case scenario, I have to replace a whole bunch of stuff. If it's within $300 of buying a new engine, I'm not really going to worry about it. But you are going to get to see the inside of this engine, which is pretty exciting, and I'm pretty excited to show it to you guys as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, especially if you're a Lexus RX300 owner in this era, or Toyota Highlander. If you didn't know, it's the same vehicle. When you're looking for the book, don't look for a Lexus book, look for the Toyota Highlander book. It's the same thing. Same car. Right there. Toyota Highlander, Lexus RX300, 330. So this book, Haynes, available at any part store. So that's it again for this video. Hope you learned something. Hope you guys have an outstanding day. I love you guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm out.